Good morning, Steeler Nation. I hope you're having a fantastic week. The work week is almost over and we're down to the home stretch. I'm Daniel J. This is State of the Steelers, and welcome to the Huddle. So today's topic comes from Facebook user or follower Bertie Carter. Miss Carter asks, how different will the offense be this year? Well, Miss Carter, I think it's going to be quite different. With the retirement of Ben Roethlisberger, it's time for a new era, and it's been a shift to a new era. And we've drafted Kenny Pickett. We've signed Mitchell Trubisky, two quarterbacks that definitely are younger and also more mobile. Now, when I say mobile, I'm not talking about the Lamar Jackson type of mobile. I'm actually maybe kind of referring to a young Ben Roethlisberger type of mobile that's going to move around the pocket, look for something down the field, and then throw the ball instead of looking at the first read and then running. And so I think that asset of the game is going to be changed. We're going to have somebody a little bit more mobile. Ben Roethlisberger, made it public last year that during the RPOs or the run pass option, that he's not part of the run option. And so I know I think it was against Cleveland where in the first game against Cleveland where he had I think it was a 2-point conversion that Kendrick Green had gotten a penalty on where Ben Roethlisberger ran in for the 2-point conversion. We got a holding penalty and moved back. And so, not saying that these guys, whoever does get the nod as a starter, is going to be that guy that's going to be the option to be the runner in majority of those situations. But it does bring a different avenue, and because of that, defenses are going to have to plan for that. And so, think of maybe a Justin Herbert or a Joey Burrow type that move around, but not so much to run the ball down the field, but so much to give time for something to develop down the field to throw the ball. Kenny Pickett has recently stated in one of his interviews that that's one of the things that he likes to do. In fact, I think it was an interview that he had done previously to getting drafted by the Steelers. I can't think of the name of it up top of my head. I'll post it later on in the comments once I do, but it was a pre-draft interview where he mentioned that when he moves around in the pocket, it's not so much to, run down the field or, pick up yards with his legs as much as it is to give something for the wide receivers to make to do something out there so that he can throw the ball down the field. And I think that's something that we need. That's something that we can gather. As far as our wide receiver group, I think there's going to be vastly different. I think that the leash on Claypool and the leash on DJ on Deontay Johnson is going to be a lot shorter than it was last year. I think if Johnson starts dropping balls, if he even shows up, but if he does and he starts dropping balls, I think Pickens and or Calvin Austin III can push him to be, to have that shorter leash. That way, if things start happening where he's not becoming that reliable receiver, he's looking, ahead of the catch, meaning he's looking to see what's going on before he brings in the ball and catches it and drops it, which he's been known to do a few times. Those things are happening. We have some value, depth at that position. Last year, if we're going to pull Deontay Johnson out, who we're going to put in his place? We had Claypool on the other side already. Are we going to put Ray McLeod? The number 15. I believe his last name is White. His first name escapes me right now. But who are we going to play? And so that leash was pretty lengthy there. And so this year and this coming year, I think if Deontay starts making those issues, well, that leash is going to be short and he's going to be taken out. But, with that being said, I think that, Ben Roethlisberger, his career as a whole, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He'll be there in 5 years, first ballot Hall of Famer. But last year wasn't his best year. And, in all honesty, the last 2 years weren't that great as far as being able to push the ball down the field. Defenses were able to pick up on that. It took defenses, not this past year, but the year before in 2020, a little bit of time to adjust to that. Ben Roethlisberger missed 2019. So when he came in 2020, a lot of defenses, in my opinion, were playing Ben Roethlisberger based on his past, not based on currently. And so they were anticipating somebody that was going to be throwing the ball down the field, holding on to the ball for a long period of time. And that wasn't the case. And we were able to get away with great defense and, short passes with defenses backed up for about 11 games there, where we went on an 11-0 stretch. However, once defenses started to figure out what we were doing and started pressing up and not worrying about the deep throw, then that's when, we started getting into some problems. That's when we started losing. That's when you started hearing things from the opposing defenses stating that they knew where we were going to go and how we were going to throw the ball, and, that they knew the play prior to the play. And a lot of that has to do with the limitations of the quarterback. Now, Mitch Trubisky or even Kenny Pickett, which as time goes on, I'm starting to think that maybe Kenny Pickett is going to get the nod as the starter. However, we'll leave that open until at least training camp, and there's at least some kind of notifications or nod to which direction they're leaning towards as far as who the starter is going to be. If there's reports coming out early on that Kenny Pickett is taking more reps with the ones, or at least half the reps with the ones, then you can probably lean to think that by the time the end of preseason comes, that he'll be the go-ahead starter come week one. However, whichever guy it is, those two guys play significantly younger. The defenses are going to have to respect that their abilities to throw the ball down the field. Kenny Pickett is a very deep, accurate thrower of the football. And so with the new acquisitions and wide receiver in the draft, defenses are going to have to respect that. They're going to have to back up. And that's just going to allow Najee Harris to feed all day. We're going to become a pick your poison type of offense. And I love that. It's going to be either, you're going to cover Claypool and leave Deontay and Pickens one-on-one, or even Pat Freiermuth on a linebacker, or, you're going to have to go out there in a dime to try to cover everybody. And then we're just going to run the ball up the middle with Najee Harris. And that's the goal, in my opinion, for our offense. That's what we're wanting to do, is make mismatches across the board and let us pick the best mismatch for us. And if we can do that and we can simplify the offense for Kenny Pickett, I think that we're going to be a lot more successful than the talking heads in the media are saying right now. I think it was ESPN or some other talking head, Nick Wright, who stated that we weren't going to win but maybe 6 to 7 games this year. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that we're going to have a strong team and we're going to surprise some people. But I think that, going back to the question, I think that our offense is going to be very different. And it's going to have to be. If we come back out with the short dump passes and we come back with a quick game, and it's very reminiscent of what it's been with Ben Roethlisberger or even Mason Rudolph in 2019, then all arrows are going to be pointed at Matt Canada, and he's going to have some answers for some questions, and rightfully so. He's had an excuse up to this point that he's not been able to implement his offense due to the fact that we have had an aging quarterback. And so he doesn't have any more excuses. He's got his guy, and not just his guy at the quarterback position, but also in the receiving position. He was very candid about his love for George Pickens and his and our second round pick. In my opinion, he thought that George Pickens was the best receiver in the draft. And it's very obvious that the Steelers as a whole thought that Kenny Pickett was the best receiver in the draft. And so with that being said, then we have the two top players in their respective position for the first 2 rounds, and got a steal in the second round. And I think the same can be said last year with Pat Freiermuth and Najee Harris, respectively being the best running back and tight end. I know that the kid in Atlanta, the tight end Pitts, he was the, top 10 tight end pick last year. However, he's more of a receiver than a tight end, in my opinion, at least. I think Pat, he's a more traditional type tight end where he's not just going to catch the ball, or maybe not traditional in that essence, but more of a overall tight end where he's not just going to catch the ball, but he's going to do some blocking and block very well. The kid out there in Atlanta, I'm haven't done too much tape on him or watched too much film, but from what I have seen, blocking really wasn't highlighted in his film. It was more the electric catches and what he was able to do in the with catching the ball versus in the trenches type of stuff. And so, guys, that's my take on that. That's what I think. I think that the offense is going to be significantly better. Um, I don't think we're going to be a team that can only turn it on in the fourth quarter. Last year, that was kind of what our MO was. We kind of just hung around, hopefully, and then we came out in the fourth quarter, guns a-blazing. And I don't think that's going to be the case this year. Last year, we made a lot of games more difficult for ourselves because of that. I remember the two games that I attended last year, which was versus the Broncos in Seattle. Those two games were under control and should have been handled early on, and both went, the Bronco game went down to the last play, and Seattle went unnecessarily into overtime. And so, with that being said, I think that those things for sure are going to be coming down to a minimum. If we are getting inside of those type of games, inside of those, one possession type of games, I don't know if we'll be better than last year in that aspect. That's where the Hall of Famer Ben Roethlisberger really played dividend. I mean, when times got tough, when it was the game is on the line, he stayed the same. And that was well documented and well publicized by his coach and many people that are within the organization or know the players, that Ben Roethlisberger was a gamer. And when it came down to it and the pressure was up there, he's always been that guy that was going to come through. And so if we're getting into those one possession type of games like we were last year, I think that might be where we might, or the Steelers might, not be as good as they were last year, to fail to say it in a better way. I think that type of mentality / leadership / ability comes with experience and also a little bit of collectiveness. Ben Roethlisberger was a quarterback who was very successful early on, but he had a really good team around him. And so this team here, not saying they're not good, but they're very young and they haven't been together very long, so they need to gel. The one thing they have on their side, though, is that it's a long, long season. And so with the added games and whatnot, it gives this young team a chance to gel within the season and maybe not push it on to the next. So I think early on, it might be a little bit like last year's. However, I feel that we'll be seeing some great changes from our offense. And I think our defense is going to be well appreciative of that, given the fact that time of possession wasn't on our side last year based on how bad our offense was. And so I think our defense is going to love the much needed rest that they deserve. And, the only thing it might affect is TJ Watt's numbers. He may not have the opportunities to get as many sacks as he used to get due to the fact that I'm hoping our offense is going to control the ball a little bit more, leading to less opportunity for him. However, we'll see what happens. But with that being said, guys, I'm Daniel J. This is State of the Steelers, and this is the Huddle. Please hit that hit that subscription button, hit that notification button, and please follow us on Facebook and Twitter. If you have any questions or comments, please list them below. You can also email your questions and comments to the stateofthesteelers@gmail.com. Again, that's stateofthesteelers@gmail.com. And or you can tweet us at State of Steelers. Again, this is Daniel J.